If God is all love, all light and perfection, then why is there so much suffering, injustice, and evil in the world? This question has haunted humanity for millennia, and maybe you felt this conflict inside yourself too. But what if I told you that the root of this dilemma lies in how we understand God and what we believe evil truly is? In this video, we're going on a deep and revealing journey. Is God actually the source of evil? Or have we been taught to fear a distorted image of Him? Prepare yourself, because the answer might free your consciousness from centuries of manipulation and return to you the power to rebuild your faith, your mind, and your reality. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs to see life through different eyes. Now, let us begin. The idea of a punitive, wrathful, even cruel God is, in truth, a human invention rooted in fear. For centuries, religions and power structures have used the image of a punishing God to control behavior, enforce obedience, and justify tragedy. But here's an invitation. Could God, as the creative essence of all that is, contain evil within Himself? The answer is shocking to many, but liberating to those who are ready. No, evil is not in God. It lives in our ignorance of who He truly is. God is order. God is intelligence. God is unconditional love. What we often call evil is apparent disorder, born from the limits of our perception. It is not God who fails. It is our vision that remains clouded. This is the first key to unlock your awareness. Evil is not a force created by God, but the reflection of disconnection from Him. Imagine a cosmic symphony where everything exists in perfect harmony. Rhythms, cycles, movements. Now think, if a single note is out of sync, does that mean the entire music is wrong? Of course not. It simply reveals a momentary disorder, a note that fell out of place. This is how evil is understood from a higher spiritual perspective. It is not a real and independent force. It is merely the temporary absence of divine order. In nature, we see storms, wildfires, and even predators that at first glance may seem bad. But when we look deeper, we realize everything has a role, a function, a balance in motion. Evil, then, is relative. It only exists when we fall out of step with the rhythm of creation, disconnected from higher consciousness. It's like being in a dark room. Darkness doesn't exist on its own. It's simply the absence of light. And here lies the secret. Absolute evil cannot exist, because it would mean total chaos, infinite disorder, which is impossible in a universe governed by such perfect laws. So when someone says the world is lost, The truth is, we are the ones who've lost connection with our divine essence. The outer chaos is merely a mirror of inner confusion. The good news is, evil, being nothing but a state of imbalance, can be transformed. Reconnection with higher order is the path to restore what once felt lost. When we think of evil, we almost always associate it with suffering. But is all suffering truly evil? Or is it, perhaps, a necessary process for our evolution? In nature, the cocoon seems to imprison the caterpillar, but it is exactly there that the butterfly is born. The soil must be broken for the seed to blossom. And many times, we too must be shattered so that consciousness can awaken. Suffering, though painful, is not a punishment. It is, most often, a sign, a warning, an invitation to change. It is the universe whispering, "You are resisting the divine order. Return to the path." The true evil is not in the suffering itself, but in staying in it without listening to what it's trying to teach. To ignore the lesson behind the pain is what creates chronic suffering. The kind that paralyzes, that sickens, that pulls us further away from the light. When you shift the question from, "Why is this happening to me?" to, "What is this happening for?" suffering transforms into a tool of liberation. And here lies the key. Suffering is not the evil. Resistance to awakening is. If there is something truly destructive in this world, it is not evil itself, but the distorted idea of God that was implanted into the minds of people. For centuries, many were taught to fear God as if he were a ruthless judge, always ready to punish any mistake. We built an image of God based on punishment, on vengeance, on pain, and we called it faith. But here is the truth few dare to say. That punishing God is not God at all. It is a projection of our fear, the shadow of humanity using the divine's name to control and manipulate. That is why so many walk away from spirituality. They're not rejecting the divine, they're rejecting the heavy burden of a belief that makes them feel guilty, weak, unworthy. That is the true evil, a God created in the image of our insecurities, used to oppress instead of liberate. And when you live under that distorted image, you drift away from your own divine essence. Because if God is judgment, you will never feel enough. If God is punishment, you will live in fear. If God is wrath, then loving yourself becomes impossible. But here is the good news. All of this can be dismantled. Every time you question, every time you seek, every time you expand your vision, that false image begins to crumble, and in its place, a living God emerges, loving, intelligent, alive, a field of consciousness that does not punish, but teaches, that does not condemn, but awakens, that does not hurt, but gently guides you back home. If evil is not an independent force, nor a creation of God, then what is it really? It is the consequence of choosing to live disconnected from divine wisdom. It's like ignoring a map while walking through a desert. The desert is not cruel, but the lack of direction is. The true power we have as conscious beings is choice. We can choose to stay in illusion, trapped in ignorance, or we can awaken. We can feed fear, judgment, and pain, or we can reconnect with order, light, and purpose. And evil, when seen through spiritual eyes, is not an ending, but a calling to look within, to question beliefs, to transform pain into wisdom, to say enough to the lies told about God and begin to feel the divine for yourself. Spiritual awakening begins precisely at the point where you stop seeking answers outside and start listening to the silent voice that has always guided you. And in that moment, everything changes. You stop being a victim of evil and become the author of your own evolution. We have reached the end of this deep and sacred journey. And perhaps the greatest revelation we can carry from here is this: God was never the evil. The true evil is the distortion of truth. It is living trapped in beliefs that limit, suffocate, and keep the spirit asleep. Evil is the absence of divine order, the denial of consciousness, the resistance to the light. And suffering, as difficult as it may seem, is often the very path that awakens us to a higher truth. When we look with spiritual eyes, we begin to understand God does not punish, He teaches. God does not condemn, He transforms. God does not destroy, He guides. And now, it's up to you. You can stay chained to outdated ideas that only create fear, or you can choose freedom. The freedom to think, to feel, to live in connection with the real divine, the one that pulses within you.